Welcome back to the verdict. Today is a day where everyone goes out there, at least if you're eligible and you have your permanent voter cards, you are expected to go out there and vote. Okay, so let's get to Taraba. I understand there's some... Okay, so, but we will bring you some information about what is playing out much later in Taraba. So, if you'll follow up...
Okay, we're there now. Sorry, Chamberlain. Sometimes this things happen, but these are the videos coming through from Taraba State.
Yeah, at Kofun Sarki Jukun Sabo polling unit 004. The electoral officers, we'll see here, are getting set for the election to commence, as all materials, both sensitive and non-sensitive, are on ground. We understand that the incumbent governor, Dario Tushako, is expected to come and cast his vote here. So it's something that we're going to keep tabs on. INEC officials, voters were stranded in Ward 2. No, this is not Taraba now, but this is the next one. I've left Taraba, but yes, we'll be expecting to see the governor coming here.
Yes, go for Serikin Jukun. That's the precise place. Go for Serikin Jukun.
I couldn't read that. Now this is Edo State, in Benin City, where we understand INEC officials, voters were stranded in Ward 2, guys. Ward 2, Oredo local government area in Benin City, waiting for the voting center to be open as at 7:40 a.m. So we're going to keep keeping tabs on that to see if anything had changed. But remember, they had told us that the police and all of those will convey the materials in good time.
Now, this is in Bauchi State, up north, in the northeast actually. So these are the pictures that Hajara has sent through.
Yes,
and our correspondent.
Yeah, restriction of movement is noticeable in Bauchi, which is enforced, of course, except for those on essential work.
Those seems to suggest that a lot of people are on essential by this picture. But you can see it's a policeman doing his duty there, searching the man on the bike.
Yeah, what's happening is that they are able to pass if they can show their voter cards as proof that they are going to vote.
Easier said than done.
Well, that's what our correspondent reports.
Okay. But in Adamawa State, in Yola, Capital School in Yola, I remember that area, where 6 polling units by 7:45 a.m. All is set for voting to commence in this area.
I'm sure that Mr. Okoye will be very excited right now.
Chamberlain is even more excited because Chamberlain knows this place. Chamberlain has grown.
Nostalgia right now. So I know that area. You know,
so
I can see that.
Are you a teacher in that? I traversed a lot of those areas, and it was quite interesting. It was very interesting. Yola North and South. It was very, very interesting. But now, Capital School, just taking a look at what we expect to play out much later today. So we'll be keeping an eye almost everywhere.
On the stronghold of the presidential candidate.
Oh, absolutely. PDP. So we'll see how things pan out there. But okay, so we'll bring you more as we get there. But let's get back to Mr. Festus about the smart card readers. Could you shed a little more light on this? Because you say you don't expect, or INEC doesn't expect any challenge with the performance of those smart card readers. But if you recall, there were times that when the results were being collated for the last elections, the Presidential and National Assembly, there were some officers who said that the smart card readers couldn't work as a result of network challenges. But from your submissions, it appears as though they don't necessarily rely on the network issues, do they?
Well, the Independent National Electoral Commission has made the use of the smart card reader a mandatory procedure for the purposes of the conduct of this election. And we expect all the presiding officers and the other assistant presiding officers to strictly adhere to this particular procedure and to this particular concept. Secondly, we have trained those who are going to handle the smart card readers on the functioning or functionality of the smart card reader, and we expect them to adhere to the instructions that has already been given to them in relation to how the smart card reader functions. We have also put all the registration area technical support staff on standby to make sure that in any place where we have challenge with the smart card reader, that those challenges are properly identified and properly rectified so that the people can vote and vote in a very, very peaceful and conducive atmosphere. What happened was that in some places, the voters simply refused to use the smart card reader. And when the smart card reader had challenge for a few minutes, they would push and insist that the smart card reader should be thrown away and that they are going to do manual vote accreditation and manual accreditation. And we have said that this is wrong, this is illegal, and that is against our regulations and against our guidelines. And we are not going to tolerate that in relation to this particular election. The smart card reader does not need any network for it to open and be used for the purposes of this election. It is after the conclusion of the elections, and if you want maybe to transmit for purposes of our own internal processes and procedures, if you want to transmit the data from the smart card reader, that you'll be talking of network. Then you don't need any network for purposes of verification and authentication of the voters that have come to the polling units. So those issues, we have strengthened them out. We have given the proper directives and we have given the proper direction to all those who are going to be involved in the conduct of this election. But that is not to say that in a place where you are deploying over 180,000 smart card readers, that you will not have challenges in one place or the other. We are going to have a few challenges, but the registration area technical support staff will be on standby to resolve those challenges. And if there's any place where we have what we call sustained malfunction of the smart card reader up to 2 p.m. and the people are unable to vote, the voting will be on countermanded in that particular polling unit and continues the following day. But we have redundancies, or what we call spare smart card readers, that can be deployed quickly to go and replace any smart card reader that has malfunctioned consistently and cannot really be used for the conduct of elections. So we do not envisage any serious challenge with the smart card readers that we have deployed for the purposes of this election. And the presiding officers and the supervisory presiding officers and the electoral officers have been directed to keep their phones open so that if any presiding officer has any challenge with the smart card reader, the presiding officer can reach the supervisory presiding officer quickly, who can also reach the registration area technical support staff to fix the challenge as quickly as possible so that the people will have a very good voting experience and not stay at the polling unit longer than necessary.
Mr. Okoye, we've gone past the presidential elections, yes, but from your submissions, some people may want to pick a bone with you, really, because in Yobe State, for instance, when the REC made her submissions at the collation center, one of the reasons she gave for those very huge number of voided votes, was it cancelled votes now, was that it was as a result of failure of the network. So how do you reconcile that with your submissions now that the smart card readers don't need network, don't work with network? We understand that they use the triad technology to operate. So what then happens if someone decides to pry into those records for the presidential elections?
Well, I have, I'm not a technical registration area technical support staff, and my knowledge of the workings of the smart card reader is very, very limited. But I have told you what the technical staff in the ICT department of the Independent National Electoral Commission have advised us on. And in all those areas where they complain of network failure, the ICT staff of the Independent National Electoral Commission have told them very clearly and in very clear terms that for the purposes of verification and authentication of the voter, that you do not need network for the purposes of doing that. And all of them have taken the correction and they have taken the direction, and we have told them everybody in all the states of the Federation that the use of the smart card reader is mandatory, and that failure to use, and deliberate failure or deliberate refusal to use the smart card reader is a criminal offense, and we are going to proceed against anybody who tries to undermine the use of the card reader. If the person is an INEC staff, the sanction becomes much more severe, and if it is a community, wherever they refuse to use the smart card reader, the presiding officers and the collation officers have been directed that 0 votes should be entered for any polling unit that does not use the smart card reader for the purposes of this election. The implication is that voting has taken place in that particular polling unit and they had 0 vote in that particular polling unit, in which case there won't be any need to go and conduct supplementary election in that particular polling unit, or to regard the votes from that particular place as cancelled votes. No, the people have voted and they refuse to use the smart card reader for the purposes of voting. So we have complete control of this particular process, and we are going to look very closely at those states where we had challenges with the smart card reader to make sure that nothing goes wrong. The situation room of the Independent National Electoral Commission is open, and we are looking at some of these issues and resolving some of these issues. The Electoral Support Center of the Independent National Electoral Commission is up and running, and we're also communicating with all the electoral officers, with the registration area technical support staff, and with our ICT staff that are out there in the field. So we are going to be looking at this election closely. And some of those challenges we experienced during the presidential elections, we don't expect to experience those challenges with this particular election.
All right, well, we'll come back to this, hoping if there's a follow-up question from Gimba in just a moment.